Our laws on sexual assault are antiques, but they're not precious ones. We need our lawmakers to step up and make a difference.
My body's not a token, my body's not a prize. Don't you dare defile me with coercion, force or lies. My body's not yours to take, it's all mine to give. It's not your entitlement, it's where I live.
Everything on this video applies across the United States and around the world. I'm Joyce Short. I'm a sexual assault survivor. I'm also the author of Your Consent, The Key to Conquering Sexual Assault, and the founder and director of the Consent Awareness Network. So let's get down to the business of making the world a safer place. When I began researching my book, what I found was shocking. No state or territory actually defines consent in its penal code. Some jurisdictions have provisions about consent, but none actually define consent, and this oversight enables rape mentality. Today, two very brave women who fought hard to bring Harvey Weinstein to justice, Tarale Wulff and Haley, have a message for you.
Hi, my name is Tarale Wulff. I was a Molyneux witness at the Weinstein trial, and I testified against him earlier this year. At his trial, Weinstein remarked that he was confused and that all men are confused. Do I believe that? Absolutely not. I don't believe that he was confused for 1 minute. I think he was very well aware of what was right and what was wrong. But if there is no legal definition of consent, then he's allowed to claim confusion.
Weinstein was sentenced to a term of 20 years for sexually assaulting Haley.
I was shocked to learn that Judge Burke had said, use your common sense when asked for a definition of consent by the jury. I think common sense can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people, depending on a lot of different factors. And so I feel that we're dealing with people's lives here. And so within a legal context, there really needs to be a very, very clear definition so that a jury can evaluate within a legal context exactly what that means.
I believe that a correct and understandable definition of consent that should be included in the penal code is freely given, knowledgeable, and informed agreement.
You see, if every jury has to use their common sense about what consent is, then there is no equal justice under the law for rape and sexual assault victims. The jury should be deciding the guilt and innocence over the facts and the evidence in the case, and not because of their confusion over what consent really means. It's very common for jurors to ask the judge for the definition for consent in sexual assault and rape cases. A perfect example of how this plays out is the Bill Cosby case. The first jury asked Judge Stephen O'Neill for the definition, and his response was, "That's a question that cannot be answered." And then he went on to say, "You're reasonable people. Use your common sense." The second jury asked the same question, and Judge O'Neill gave them the same answer. The difference was that the foreperson for the jury was a cybersecurity expert by the name of Cheryl Carmel. And Cheryl was familiar with the General Data Protection Regulation definition for consent, which is practically identical to the definition that I present in my TEDx talk. For centuries, our lawmakers have omitted the definition for consent from our penal codes on sexual assault. The problem is so ingrained in our justice system that recent laws actually blame the victim. They say that the words and actions of the victim constitutes consent, and that can be an outrageous misconception. Consent is a form of agreement. Words and actions are a form of conveyance, but they can only convey consent if consent is actually taking place. When someone is forced or tricked or scared into agreeing, They could be assenting, which is agreement on the face of it. They could be acquiescing, which is agreement under duress, but they can't be consenting, which is freely given, knowledgeable, and informed agreement. Pretty much everyone from teens and above know the F word for sex. But did you know that there are 3 F words that should never be a part of sex? How do we know? Model Penal Code, Nuremberg Code, General Data Protection Regulation, and my TEDx talk, When Yes Means No, The Truth About Consent, all express consent the same way. We all either say or support that consent is freely given, knowledgeable, and informed agreement. The offender knows if they've used force, fear, or fraud in order to influence your words and actions. So it's the behavior of the offender that makes a crime, not the behavior of the victim. Larry Nassar is in jail because he used trickery in order to influence his victims. Harvey Weinstein is in jail because he used force and coercion. Bill Cosby is in jail because influencing a person who is drugged or intoxicated, who's not capable of coherent thought, they cannot possibly make a knowledgeable or informed decision. We can't possibly predict all the many ways that a sexual assault can happen. The ancient legal doctrine nulla pene sine lege, which means what's not expressly prohibited by law is permissible, makes sexual assault laws that lack a definition of consent look like a Swiss cheese umbrella full of legal loopholes. And sexual predators just dive right into those legal loopholes without any accountability and with no justice for their victims. This is just the tip of the iceberg on this issue. If you'd like more clarity, you can watch my TEDx talk, or you can read Your Consent, The Key to Conquering Sexual Assault. Several years ago, when the women's movement was getting underway, Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg made a very, very significant statement that rings true today. Gloria Steinem turned to her during the first rally for the women's movement and said something sort of like, well, isn't this wonderful? Look at our fabulous turnout. And Ruth Bader Ginsburg turned to her and said, it changes nothing until we change our laws. Please call your legislator. Show them this video. Let them know how important codifying consent is to you, because together we can make the world a safer place. Thank you.
My body's not a token, my body's not a prize. Don't you dare defile me with coercion, force or lies. My body's not yours to take, it's all mine to give. It's not your entitlement, it's where I live. My body's not a token, my body's not a prize. Don't you dare defile me with coercion, force or lies. My body's not yours to take, it's all mine to give. It's not your entitlement, it's where I live. Ooh, FGKIA, keep your rape mentality away. Ooh, FGKIA, sign it into law today. We'll raise this banner high and bring your walls down. We'll take this match to the sky and make the clearest sound. It's not about your loss, it's all about my voice. My consent's not your choice, it's mine and it's a must. We'll raise not your choice, it's mine and it's a must. Ooh. FGKIA, keep your rape mentality away, away. Ooh. FGKIA, sign it into law today. FGKIA simply means consent is freely given and it's a knowledgeable and informed agreement between two parties. So let love live and say no to rape or any form of violence.